And I'm not in your mute.
Good morning, Justin.
Hey, John.
How are you?
Oh, not too bad. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Actually, I'm gonna log out real quick and log back in. I got a issue with feedback. I'm gonna see if I can solve it. I'll be right back. Is that Liza?
Yes, it is. Good
Hey,
morning.
Liza, how are you?
Good. I meant to be at my office at 8 o'clock, but I'm still driving, so that's why I'm on my phone.
Well, that's still good. How far do you have to drive to get in?
It's an hour. Yeah, I live in Saguache in the north end of the San Luis Valley, and our office is in Alamosa. So I only go down a couple days a week these days, but yeah. So when I get set up about 8:15, I'll switch to my visual.
Good. And you get cell phone service all the way down?
I do.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I may or may not have video. I've got Heston, and he's much more active than the last one we did with this. So I think he may be more of a distraction if I have the video on.
Yes. How old is the little man now?
He's 11 months. He'll be a year next month. So
Yeah, they get pretty active, don't they?
yes, they do. It's a good thing, but it's also it then comes with its other unique challenges.
Absolutely.
And he has to be in the middle of everything. So, of course, he's set right in my lap, sitting at the computer.
You bet. You bet. Remind me again, Justin, where your farm is located?
Just south of Amarillo, in between Amarillo and Canyon.
And east or west of 27?
West. Yeah, kind of. If you've ever taken that 2219 loop around to Humbarger,
Yep,
out that way.
out that way.
John, when did you ever have a chance to take 2219?
Well, I might have even been on it just a little bit the other day because I came down from
Oh yeah.
I came south from Bushland and then cut into that and went right into Umbarger and then south to Daryl's place.
Yeah,
That's true. You did get on 2219 then.
I always like to get off the beaten path a little bit when I can, see the sights.
Well, this looks very different on the iPad, John. I can't tell. Are people on? Getting on?
We got Liza. She's driving in, so she's on her phone. We got her wonderful logo to gaze upon, and then we got Justin and Chelsea, and that's what we got for the moment. Besides you and I.
Okay. I see when I push that, then I can see others. All right.
Oh, and I don't have my video up because I've got Preston set right in
Yeah.
the lap, and I have a feeling he will be very distracting if I have my video on.
I heard your travails, Justin. I heard them. Justin, did you get my email about needing those?
Yeah,
bullets?
there's not any on my phone, so I've got to go through my social media and see where I've posted some before because I don't have any current.
That's why you have to have an iPad, so you have all these things stored and just go find them.
Well, whenever I upload them, they get stored. But
Yeah.
That yesterday I was on the phone for probably 6 hours or more because the whole thing with the Amarillo Health Department exploded again, and so I was trying to put out fires.
That's too long to be on the phone.
Yeah, it wasn't very much fun at all, especially not with angry people.
Okay. Liza,
What exploded? What did you say exploded?
I'm in the process of getting a processing facility built, and trying to jump through all the regulatory hoops with that has been interesting.
Oh, good for you, though. We have such a bottleneck here. And actually, at 9 o'clock, there's going to be a processing bottleneck call. So I'm going to sit on the phone for a minute, too, today.
Yeah, well, it's definitely been an experience, but I think that we'll be able to take this and kind of make a not necessarily a how-to guide, but a guide of things at least to check on, because there's just nothing out there for that period.
Good luck.
That's coming.
morning, Jess.
No audio. I could see her.
Okay. We got Fernando, and he showed up big
How
on the
about
screen.
that?
There you
There
are.
you go.
Okay. I said happy Veterans Day and good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Happy Veterans Day.
Yes, happy Veterans Day. Liza, are you going to be driving, or are you stationary?
I am probably 5 minutes from my office, so I'm going to do a transition and listen in, and then I'll set up my computer and do it the right way.
Okay. Well, we are at the top of the hour, and see, we have a small group thus far, which was hoping for some others. I had called people and messaged, so I had at least 4 other people who said they were going to be on. Of course, that was yesterday, or maybe Monday. So,
Hey, Daryl, this is Mitzi Jett. I'm on.
Great, Mitzi. Glad to have you. And who else am I missing, John, that I can't see who's on?
Bertha,
Bertha, okay.
Good
how are you,
morning.
Bertha?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks, Bertha, for being on. And let's see, John, who else is? Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. And more will join and we'll take care of things as we're able. So the call this morning, local producers Zoom call is about presentations or workshops or any kind of input that would be helpful to local food producers. I would say also food crafters, local food crafters in 2021. So the reason for this is we had a call last month, and that was more about the outreach that we've done with using social media tools. And I would say that no matter what happens in 2021, having some kind of way to get together virtually, but hopefully also in person, is really important for rebuilding local food shed. In my limited, though multi-year experience, I don't know how else you would do it unless you can get people together somehow. So if I think back about what's happened over the last couple of years down in local Llano, in that food shed, Llano Estacado, what we did to get this kind of model put together, we did the years of, building an audience with social media tools, and that was all good. Blogs, those are okay. But things really got going when I got the funder to say, okay, this year we're going to fund having some in-person meetings. And so, hi Dee, good to have you. Good.
Thank you.
That's right. So we had two of those, and they were small gatherings of 30 people. But that is where we got really positive feedback from those who did gather to say that meeting in person or having what we call a summit does a couple things. It's a way to give information. You might say, well, you could just email that out or do it some other way. Yes, you can. But there's something about coming together. And we might say, well, people who do this, they already know why they do it. And they have lots of motivation. It's their livelihood or part of one of their income streams. All those things are true. But there is a synergy and a magic that happens when people get together, like local producers in one room. There's networking, there's peer-to-peer learning. So those things, I think, really begin to energize the local food shed and food shed work in a way that just doing social media cannot do. So that is why I think it's really interesting for us to talk about moving ahead or looking at the next year. What kind of workshops or presentations or tools, information would be helpful. So to speak into that, I asked a couple of people to help us start out today. One of them is Mitzi. But Mitzi, I'm going to go to Justin first, Justin Trammell, who's in the local Llano food shed. And I'm asking Justin because he's been to two of these summits. So I just asked him to talk to us about how they have helped him and what kind of information that he's received in the summits that he's been able to put into practice. Justin, is that what you understand that you're going to be talking about?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay. Is that why don't you go ahead and share with us what you have?
Okay, so like Daryl mentioned, I've been to two of these, and I think the two big things that really stand out to me is getting to meet the others who are involved in this, because at least in the Panhandle area, our growers community is not large. And by growers, I don't just mean vegetables. I mean, meat, eggs, and really any kind of food products. So getting to meet these people is pretty impactful, and it's helped really drive our little community to where I've actually been able to put together a producer's box, basically. that'll be going out in a few weekends. And I think that's going to be a pretty huge thing for everybody involved. The other thing that really has helped me with these conferences is, in particular, the policy law type things. Because the fact of the matter is that with most of us producers, we don't fall on a scale that's large enough that most regulatory agencies, whether they be local or state, have a good bearing on how to handle us. And at least in my experience, that very often results in very overbearing or very hostile reactions from those agencies. So knowing those laws and knowing where you stand and what you should and shouldn't give ground on and that kind of thing has been very, very, very helpful to me in a lot of different ways, but especially in now trying to get this little processing facility up. I mean, if I didn't have those tools that I've gathered over the past few years with that, I definitely wouldn't have been able to take this venture on. So.
Thanks, Justin. Anybody have questions or things you want to ask Justin?
Justin, who do you think has been the best resource to communicate back to you a clearer picture of policy? What's your resource you're enjoying listening from?
Really, probably my best resource so far has been Judith with Farm and Ranch Freedom Alliance. She's just been wonderful to work with, and her organization does a lot anyway in our local legislation here in Texas. But she's just super knowledgeable, and generally if she doesn't know, she can send me to somebody who does know. So she's been able to really arm me with a lot of really good information that's helped out quite a bit with these kind of ventures.
Okay, thank you.
And Justin, I have a question as well. I was curious, when you're talking about the policy and the laws, are you talking more along the lines of like the Food Safety Manufacturers Act, the Produce Safety Laws, GAP, GIP, all of that? Or is it more in line with selling to consumers and those types of regulations?
Really, it's kind of everything, because as I kind of mentioned, most regulatory agencies don't really know how to handle you whenever you're kind of this size. And so very often they're trying to apply laws that apply to entities that are much, much bigger. And so if you're going to wade into this, you kind of have to know the ins and outs of just about all those things. Whenever you don't know the ins and outs of those, it's very easy for a local or state entity to say, hey, you have to do this. And you just go, oh, well, I must have to do that. When in reality, you actually don't even fall under those, or you fall under those in a very different way.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
So Justin, if we have another, I shouldn't say if, when we have the summit in 2021, you would like to attend.
Yeah, that's for sure. Whether it's, I hope it's in person, because in person is just so much better for networking and that kind of stuff. But even if it's not, FARFA did a real good job with their online conference this year. So I think that's probably something we could replicate pretty easy.
Look, I'm glad you brought that up. So FARFA, was that just statewide, or did they have people from all over the country?
No, they had people from all over the country.
Yeah. Okay. And you found that helpful too?
Yeah, like I said, it definitely wasn't as good as in person, but they that platform that they used, it really allowed for a lot of good interactions and conversations outside of just the presentations that they had.
Okay. Justin, thank you for that. Why don't you stay on, and because we'll have some other discussion that we'll get you in on, but I want to pivot to Mitzi. Mitzi, are you hearing me okay?
I am.
Great. You have been producing food in Baca County for a while. And so here we are, we come onto the scene and say, hey, we want to engage local producers in Southeast Colorado. And we had some calls because we wanted to have a summit. It was all set and we couldn't have it in April in Holly. And we went to calls. Have the calls given you anything you can use or that's helpful to you in your work? And then second follow-up question be, what would you like to see? What could be helpful to you moving ahead in 2021?
Yes, the calls have been very helpful. I haven't been able to be on all of them. One thing that has just really got my mind rolling was the topless high tunnel. I find myself, it is so labor intensive, and I'm really tied to my operation at the hip during the summer, with the high tunnel, having to roll it up and roll it down. So right now I'm considering moving forward, going, with shade cloth only on my high tunnels in the future. My operation, I'm really at a point of transition. I just, I'm kind of a one woman operation. And I just am finding that I physically cannot do it all by myself anymore. So I'm really looking at how I can, where I go from here. As far as things that I think would be really helpful, we're a small community. We have very limited market outlets. I think that it would be very helpful. There's several others who, for 6 years I was the only one locally growing produce. I think that it would be very helpful where there's others coming into the game, that we learn how to coordinate, because there is that limited market. I think it would be very helpful, to have tools of how to coordinate, so that, maybe we specialize, each specialize, in something. That coordination, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, where it's going to be more of a team effort locally rather than, a competitive kind of ball game, where we all kind of win-win. So I think it would be helpful to me and others in the area, even to have a little more information on kind of how co-ops work, maybe. I know that I've heard that word tossed around a lot, but I don't think that locally we have a lot of knowledge on how something like that would work.
Okay.
I'm also interested in, maybe learning a little more about, the value added, what that entails, how, the policies and laws for value added, what that sort of kitchen or facility might look like, and what the potential might be there.
Mitzi, is it fair to ask
Yes.
you? I hope you're going to continue because you've got a wealth of knowledge and experience.
Yeah, like I said, I am at a point in transition, and I'm not leaving the ball game for sure. I've invested too many years, and have went through the huge learning curves, and it's just something that I love. So I'm staying in the ball game. I can't do it alone anymore. I'm getting older, and I physically can't do what I've been doing anymore. So
Understood. People have
and
questions.
I am interested in learning from others with high tunnels. If anybody is growing or has transitioned to something, to more perennials within the high tunnel, asparagus or dwarf fruit trees, or I've even considered maybe like grapes and doing, something value added with that, maybe, specializing in, I don't know, wine sauce, wine. I don't know. I really, I'm really just kind of brainstorming now where I go from here.
Okay. Anybody have questions or comments? I have one that I could ask Dee to comment on, but I'll just say, does anybody else have?
So, Mitzi, one of the things that you mentioned is that working together with your general competition pool, and I'd say that that's kind of been key in my little area. I'm not familiar with y'all's population up there, but at least with the population that we're dealing with within the Amarillo kind of metroplex type area, you know, there's not nearly enough of us producers to even start to compete with each other in reality. And so I think whenever you can kind of overcome that mindset to start with, then you can start working together on a lot of different things like boxes or even setting up together or whatever works for your little group, and it becomes a whole lot more beneficial. Because even just actually I saw a post on my timeline from this time last year, and I was set up by myself, and I've never done good by myself, but whenever I can set up with others, even if we do have a little bit of overlap, it is pretty much always for the better. So
Thank you.
I would agree with Justin. Daryl, what was your question that you wanted to ask me? I don't want to be redundant, but I do have a couple of comments I hope is helpful.
Oh, please do make your comments. And then I was just going to ask you, Dee, if you had any ideas for Mitzi's question about perennial things that could be grown in high tunnels.
Yes, and that's a wide open field. I know several applications for high tunnels and growing asparagus. One of your best resources might be to do a little research on that in Canada. There's some operations up there, and they're large commercial. So obviously they have a lot of labor that access there, but I haven't found yet anything that you can't grow in a high tunnel. So when you look at it from that standpoint, you just gotta pick what sets you on fire to go grow it and use your high tunnel as an application. For me in this West Texas area, I protected my crops from excessive heat and wind, most especially wind. For where you're at, it may be cooler weather or excessive rain. So I think it's wide open as far as perennial crops. To me, I think somebody ought to latch on to herbs. If I'm like you, basically a one-woman operation, and I can chase rabbits. Right now, there's a huge demand for herbs. I think you could put up a quarter section of high tunnels and grow nothing but rosemary, and it would be profitable. So you just gotta, what is it that makes you want to get out of bed and go grow it that day, or go check on it, plant it, harvest it, weed it? So that's kind of wide open, but there's a ton of people that's probably already trying it. Peaches in Fredericksburg, they're under high tunnels, different types. And I understand where you have issues with canopies. You have to babysit high tunnels, I'm not gonna lie, for where I'm at with the wind. And from what I visited with some other growers, if you have excessive snow, that can be an issue. So they're not free of problems. If you know you have bad weather coming in, somebody's got to be on point to tend to that tunnel, or just have a spare canopy in the barn to throw up so you don't have to lose, you won't lose the crop you're trying to harvest.
Excuse me. I lost my call. I just got back on. I am so sorry. The last I heard you talking about was when you were talking about just growing herbs. You thought that you could plant, all the tunnels to rosemary.
Yeah.
My apology.
No, that's fine. I guess if you're looking for something that might be, because it sounds like labor might be a little bit of an issue. It's a huge issue for me in this area. I would love to have 10 high tunnels, but I just don't have the labor to tend to that many high tunnels. And there are some crops that are less labor intensive, but and I'm not, please don't misunderstand. I think you're just not willing to put in the labor. That's not it at all. I understand where you're at from those physical demands, and also maybe from when you're doing successive plantings in a high tunnel every 3 to 4 weeks, then that demands you be on point. So a perennial crop is a great idea. You're really onto something that might be a solution for you. But asparagus, herbs are in huge demand right now, and people are so pleased when they purchase an herb from a local grower because it has such a longer shelf life. So
I'm curious of market outlets for herbs, because I know that I would not be able to, market my, high tunnels full of herbs locally. So that might be something, if I knew of other markets, opening up new markets for things like herbs.
yes, ma'am. And you could do both cut herbs that you're selling as a ready to use product, and you might think about potted herbs that you sell for someone else to grow in their garden. And again, you could use the high tunnel for both purposes there. We get requests for both. Us selling herbs was kind of an accident. I'll be honest, I just started selling some herbs that I was using for my own kitchen garden just to cover my vending fee at our locals farmers market. And to me, the variety of herbs I grow are basically weeds. And my husband made fun of me for selling weeds at the market until he found out how much those weeds were bringing in profit each month. And then he started looking at it as an extra crop to plant in the field. Our herbs in most areas, there's going to, depending on your location and weather and growing season and all, most herbs are fairly easy to grow. And even right now, more and more people are really into cooking because they've been cooking at homes and they're wanting to use herbs. There's other things, and I'm sure you've already thought of them. Jessica probably has ideas as far as reaching out to restaurants, local kitchens, culinary schools. I don't know if you have a junior college in your area or a regular college. Do they have a culinary school? And then all of a sudden, you're getting calls about, are you that lady that grows herbs? The other part of this equation sounds to me, for me it is, because like I said, I want my hands in the dirt every day. So marketing is something that takes me away from my high tunnel, and I hate it. So when you're talking about networking with other growers, maybe doing some CSA or getting together, and I think Justin's right, competition for small growers like all of us are is not a problem. And I think to view it that way is a problem for some of these people that are trying to put markets together. You do better as a group than as an individual, but you need a communications director. And I cannot emphasize that enough. If you're a small group of growers, even if you don't have an organized market, you just know several other people that are doing what you do too, and you're just giving your friend's phone number out because they have eggs, or your friends. If you could pitch in together and hire a communications director that can do your advertising on all the social media platforms, that helps a business so much. And you grow from that as individual growers to maybe branding that network. And I'm definitely talking out of my butt right now because I am not qualified to be a communications director. I've just this year understand clearly what branding means, but it is well worth your time if that's not your thing. They'll network you into restaurants, help you develop farmers market. There are people out there that have the skill set to help take what you do and get it out to the general public, whether that's on the commercial side, individual side, small market farms. It's well worth finding someone that can help your group out. And there is more power in a group than there is individually with this small specialty crop. And when I say small specialty crop, I really mean beef, lamb, pork, poultry, eggs, cheeses. When you combine all that together and get it either in a central location or get it going through a central distribution, then it helps the general public out, because even our customers don't have time to go to farm to farm to farm. And right now it's even better if they can just go to one site to get their door drop order or their online order. And that requires a communications director.
Yeah.
Thanks for those things that you're tossing out there, Dee. That's a lot for us to process. So let's.
I appreciate.
Yes, go ahead.
I was just saying I appreciate it, Dee. Some really wonderful ideas.
Sure.
Yeah. Anybody have follow-up questions or comments? Fernando, what about herbs? Everybody needs them, right? Fernando, we're not hearing you. You got to unmute. Not yet. Well, darn. Okay, well, there you go. There you go. Now we can hear you. No, we can't.
This Zoom is really messing with us. I don't know why, but I was just gonna say it's funny that Dee said that herbs were fairly easy. It's been the one thing I've not been able to figure out in my own garden. But it's really interesting, and it's giving me ideas. Like I don't know. It's great to hear that there's a lot of demand for those. I would want to grow in a high tunnel in my backyard.
Good. So I wonder, do you, Fernando or Jess, do you have anything to speak into these questions or these comments about distribution and coordinated communication?
I mean, I don't want to, seriously, Mitzi, I mean, it's brilliant what you brought up about just the coordination piece and how do we actually coordinate, and the whole concept of, each specializing in something to be able to support the greater picture is just a great idea. And I'm like taking notes furiously. And the point about the distribution is, especially in some of these rural areas, like if there isn't the facility already there, I'm like, what if a school could be a food hub of sorts? I don't even think that's actually ever even been approached outside of like larger school districts, but even some of the smaller school districts in Colorado with some of the grants they're getting to build out their facilities, they're getting like beautiful like walk-ins and freezers and dry storage space to where, I mean, the school is already a centralized hub anyways for that community. That could be just a way to start with this process. But I thought that was great. And I'm curious as to which herbs grow well, because I've had great success with oregano, and my chives and scallions have been doing really well, but I was curious. And we always promote like fresh herbs as one of the easiest ways for school districts to start getting into using local products in a manner that requires minimal preparation. So that's like the easiest entry point. Just add fresh parsley to your homemade ranch dressing, et voila, like you've done a lot just there. So I love it.
It's interesting that you bring up this. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I was just saying it's interesting that you bring up the schools some of them that are the hub for the community, it would be a great timing to do some research on that as Springfield is getting ready to get a brand new school built.
Yes.
Good point.
And if, if for some reason, we've kind of looked at that, but for here anyway, in some areas, there seem to be some liability issues, but most communities have a senior citizen center. And I've thought that is another good area too. With some of it seems like schools are having to meet so many restrictions anymore on certain things. There's so many liability, but almost every community, even large urban, they have senior citizen centers, and they're already looking for programs anyway, and they get grants, so they have to have programs in order to keep qualifying for these grants. So it makes it easier, especially if you network it like with a chef that's trying to talk to a small group, and then they can sign off, so that qualifies them for the grant, but it also gives you a good venue to, if not sell your product there, at least be able to communicate to them where they could purchase it. But a lot of these senior citizen centers are, like you say, they have refrigeration for certain things, and they're already looking for programs anyway.
That's a great point. We've started diving into that a bit. Go ahead, Mitzi.
Is that you, Liza?
Yes, that's me, finally.
Okay. Who was making that last point? Was that Mitzi, or who said that was a great idea? I'm sorry to ask. I'm just wondering. Anyway.
That's all.
Jessica. I've got one quick thing to add to that too. At least here in Texas, the box that I'm putting together, I thought I was going to have a food manufacturer's license, but after talking to the state pretty extensively, if you're not repackaging things and if you're not putting everything under one label, you then don't have to have that food manufacturing license. And so that actually opened this up a lot sooner than what I planned, because I thought I was going to have a facility to do this. So that's another way you can approach it. I'm not for sure. I don't know Colorado's laws or any other states. So, it's going to have to be approached on that basis. But that might be worth looking into.
That's a good idea.
One thing I'm seeing in all this, and probably one workshop or presentation that would be helpful at any of our summits, Colorado, Texas, or anywhere else, would be this thing on emerging or marketing options. Because I've been observing this year, we have our, traditional farmers markets that continue to function well, like downtown Midland market that you go to in Midland, D, Lubbock and Amarillo. I'm less familiar with what's happening in Southeast Colorado. I apologize, but now I see these pop-ups more like Justin, what you're involved in. That one called Salt. It's for 2 hours or 3 hours on Saturdays and at a shopping center. So I think that would be worth talking about, this thing about.
Yeah, just a little bit of history on where I personally have been in my operation in marketing. I started with a storefront. I didn't feel like that was really feasible in my area because we just don't have the traffic. I might harvest, 20 pounds of beets and nobody wants beets this week. And I just felt like I had a lot of waste. So I did transition to the CSA model. I've had about 70 people who pick up weekly. And for me, that's something I'm wanting to transition away from. It just is too much, to harvest all of that myself and to box it all up. And so I envision a team of growers, where it's not just me, providing everything that goes into these weekly boxes. I think it would be great if we could get, we're such a small county with not that many households. I mean, it would be great if we could market, maybe, kind of like the Blue Apron, you know, where we do that locally, and we include like the Schroeder beef and we eggs, Schroeder and Everett beef and eggs, and you know, and we deliver. I don't know. I'm brainstorming. I can't do the whole CSA model by myself anymore. I don't want to. So anyway, a little bit about where I've been and don't really know where I'm going from here. And I'm not sure, you know, I'm not sure how in such a small market area, how it's financially feasible for all of us to grow with a limited market area, unless we're able to, you know, expand into a larger market.
Sorry, I was holding forth and my Zoom dropped. I guess they didn't want to hear me, but I know you all wanted to. So can I continue with my thought and then catch up with you? Yeah, it just
Got
seems
it.
like, yeah, I think something about marketing options. I caught the tail end of what you were saying there, Mitzi, and I think that is, again, one of the issues for all local food producers is what market they're trying to serve, and how do you build a market in a sparsely populated region. I think we have people who can speak to that. I think we could put together a helpful presentation, hopefully that we could do in person. One that we could definitely record and make available virtually as well. We could probably do something with a, you know, a Zoom call follow-up or a Zoom call beginning, but that's one thing I'm hearing from our call this morning. Something about these changing marketing options.
Daryl, can I tell the story of the San Luis Valley for a second?
Sure.
And so in 2014, we did a farm to school event where we got donated organic carrots and donated fingerling potatoes, and we got a bunch of volunteers. They delivered them to all 14 of our school districts, and we're in the San Luis Valley, 8,000 square miles with 46,000 people living in 8,000 square miles. So very, very rural. And, you know, we have one school district that has 82 students up to our biggest one that has around 3,000. And after that, you know, it was Colorado Proud School Meal Day. And after we did that event, the food service directors were like, God, we love that. And we, you know, had the stories of the farmers on posters all over the cafeterias. And we did a big, you know, media blitz and had lots of, you know, just did a big essay in the newspaper about it. And the food service directors were like, we want to do that again. And the farmers were like, well, is it legal for us to drive to the back of a school and, you know, dump off potatoes? And so we started this process in partnership with the University of Colorado to do a survey of all the direct market farmers in the San Luis Valley that we could find. And we started out with about 90, but a lot of them just grew animal feed and grain for beer and things like that. So then we, you know, ended up with 63 farmers. And of those, 97% of them said they love to do what they do best, which is to farm. And they, you know, they would love to have a marketing entity or a food hub to support them. And so we built the San Luis Valley, the Valley Roots Food Hub. It launched in June of 2015. And talking about schools, it's funny, but Dan Hobbs, who was on the first, I think, one of these calls, and the Valley Roots Food Hub, both, we are utilizing abandoned rural school campuses for our food hubs. So that's a really common infrastructure in rural areas, is that, you know, as they get these, especially in Colorado, we have a rural school fund called BEST, where you can, you know, get support for building new schools in rural areas. And so because of that beautiful opportunity for schools, we have older school district campuses that are just languishing. And so in the San Luis Valley, two farmers came together and bought the Sangre de Cristo middle school, high school campus, and they were not using the 5,000 square foot kitchen and commercial kitchen and cafeteria. So that's where the Valley Roots Food Hub is. And we, you know, when I say we service 65 producers, we're talking about, you know, some people with high tunnels, some people, we're not talking about big. You know, we do have a few mid-size that, you know, a little bit of our bread and butter in the winter kind of thing, but mainly, you know, and so our thing is that the farmer tells us what they have on Monday. On Tuesday, the customer orders. On Wednesday, the farmer sees the order, puts together what's been bought. We go to the farm and pick it up, and we deliver it on Friday. We pick it up on Thursday and deliver it on Friday. And we've gone to 2 cycles a week now that COVID hit, because so many families wanted to access the local foods. And so, you know, that's our service. And the cool thing is that we don't take possession of farm product unless there's a buyer for it. We do, you know, buy some whole steers and get them processed into hamburger and have them in our freezer. And we do get some shelf stable stuff that we stockpile, like the Colorado Mills sunflower oil. So that kind of thing. But this was in response to demand from farmers. And I hear what you're saying. I think it's Mitzi who's saying, you know, I want to be in my hoop house growing my food. I don't want to be out there, you know, in the marketing world. And that was very common in the San Luis Valley. And so our food hub has really been a tremendous resource. And we did start out heavy on grant money. I will say probably this summer might have been the first time that our income actually paid our bills. And, you know, we're going back down now that it's November. We do have a nice Christmas, Thanksgiving ordering time, but, you know, it does get a lot quieter in the winter, even though we do have quinoa and dried beans from Dove Creek and, you know, lots of proteins and eggs that we have all year round. But that's been a marvelous solution in the San Luis Valley.
That's great.
Yeah, thanks for that, Liza. So it
Thank
seems
you.
like there's almost like an evolution going from markets getting set up, which are important, farmers markets, to this kind of to a food hub. It seems to be includes a lot of growers. You have infrastructure, and then you have this coordinated marketing. Some options for coordinated rather than just individual marketing. Would that be accurate, Liza? Some of what I'm saying?
Yeah, our general manager likes to say 65 farmers on one invoice.
Okay. So that building a food hub and how you start, how you could use existing infrastructure, even at school or senior citizen center or something like that. And then aggregating the growers and the products, and then having some kind of coordinated marketing. That would probably be a helpful workshop or presentation. What do you all think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Other ideas, we're getting to the last 15 minutes here. So anybody who hasn't spoken, who has something they want to say that would help us on this, any tools that growers or food crafters or these networks are missing that we could cover in our calls. You know, we'd like to continue this monthly call starting back in January. John and I sketched out a couple of topics like seeds in January. I think we should look at legislation, even though every state is different, but just looking at having somebody like a Judith McGeary or anybody else who could be on that call just to give us some insights of what are the legislative outlooks for small growers that their organization is working on, for example. That might be really informative to growers. So that's an idea. Do you all have other suggestions or ideas that we would like to get down here? Don't everyone speak at once, because I can't write that fast.
Well, the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union just had, we're having our online convention, very, very different. But last night it was on ecosystem payments, and it was about how agriculture can really sequester carbon and be a solution for climate change. And I think, you know, I mean, I go to these science presentations where they say we have like 11 years to do something before it's going to be too late. And I think it might be a topic we want to, you know, talk about. And from my understanding, like Nori was on this presentation last night, and several others just talking about how agriculturists can be paid for their efforts in sequestering carbon. You know, using cover cropping was something that that you can be paid for. And so it was just really fascinating to learn. And I think this might be a topic that we might want to talk about or explore a little bit.
Good suggestion, Liza. Other ideas, possibilities, things that'll be helpful? Justin, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Well, just like I've talked to you about before, I think if we do get to meet in person, that having a dedicated time for that kind of networking rather than just a few minutes here and there would be worth it, even if it's a voluntary, you know, social gathering afterwards or, you know, whatever that may be. I think that's very beneficial.
That's a good point. So Justin is always an advocate for letting people get together. So at the end of the summit, he wants to, where we can go somewhere and have finger food and let those who attend just talk to each other informally. A little longer than a break, like 30 minutes. That's a good point. I have noted it, Justin. What do you all think about these tours, tour ideas? That may be one of the things. I mean, for Ogallala Commons, we've continued to have some field days this fall. We were going to have one, these are on natural resource conservation, but we were going to do one in Amarillo, but I was very quickly aware you can't find a venue to get together in. No library, no ag extension place will let you in right now. So we pivoted to smaller towns, and that works. It's easier to get together, get a group together in a town of 200 than in a town of a city of 200,000. So I just wonder if some of you as growers would see any possibilities of getting small groups together for tours and those kind of those type of learning events. Dee, are you still having tours or any kind of learning at your farm?
No, Daryl, I haven't, and that's not been so much on my end as just that the organizations just pulled the plug on it for. We had one scheduled in October, and then we all got together and again, there's just liability issues on those organizations in as well as mine. It's pretty on our farm, Cotton Farmer Ranch, and on the Market Farm, we go through Farm Bureau, and a simple release form seem to cover that. I don't know. I guess a question for all of y'all: have any of you been tested with COVID issues, or know a fellow farmer or rancher that's had any kind of ongoing suits or anything where they have COVID issues with liability? I think that's what I run into, just people don't know. I don't spend my time worrying about that a lot. I love farm tours. I learn a lot from looking how different people, especially when it comes to high tunnels, what is their application for a high tunnel? And depending on what area you are in, how did you modify that particular high tunnel to help you with either the crop, your weather conditions, with your ability to maintain it. I do basically all that myself, and I have to have some things modified in order for me to use it quickly or make a change quickly on it. So you know, you get your handbook, you can watch all the YouTubes that the factory gives you, but boy, when you go to Farmer John or Farmer Sue and she's done this to modify that, that's just invaluable information, that kind of networking. So I enjoy that. Water conservation, that's always interesting how different people are repurposing their water, whether they're using it on a row crop of onions, or they're using it to their runoff from their high tunnels or from their tomato sheds to water their chickens. You know, it's just always interesting to me to see how they used whatever resources they had to reuse water. All of those things are just something you pick up when you go. And then to that point, a lot of time on farm tours, you get to do what Justin's talking about, those little side conversations. You're looking at how they rigged up repurposing runoff water from a high tunnel, and then all of a sudden somebody says, yeah, but if he would have done this, would it have worked better than that? And it's just those side conversations that are invaluable. You pick up stuff from too. So I love farm tours. I would like to go on one again.
Good points. So I've got those things down. Incidentally, there's a grower. She sells in Dumas and Dalhart, up the top of the Panhandle, close to Colorado, and she's been at 2 of these summits. So I was talking to her the other day about getting on this call, but she's had a medical appointment today, but she is going to get a high tunnel. So I was able to mail her Alice Cahill's book. So show that to her agent, because they have been in conversation about how to put this tunnel up and things like that. So her name is Whitney Crabtree. So maybe we can see how this goes and, kind of see live and on, actually how this goes up and learn from that and see how she learns from what Alice, and maybe that's, again, another call we can do to help spread the learning. So those are good topics. Dee, I have those down. A few more minutes. Anybody else? We've got like 5 more minutes.
I have a topic that I just personally would want to listen in on, but it's not my strong suit. I've had a lot of conversations with farmers and producers and people who support, such as Liza and someone down in Montezuma County, about the time to value ratio when it comes to planting crops, the amount of labor it takes to harvest those crops, and even the time to value with a farmer if you're looking at going to a farmer's market versus having CSA boxes versus having restaurant, retail types of sources. So helping farmers really understand the business aspect of that, which, I just want to know for myself, but I think that would be very useful as well. Just to be able to keep supporting the farmers as they're looking to build their businesses or maintain them as is and manage efficiencies.
It's a great suggestion, Jess. I got that down. So the way it looks now, we'll have to have like 3 days of summit. Just kidding. No, these are all very doable, I think. And again, some of these topics we could take up on calls as well. So anyone else? I think we've heard a good deal about crops, food crops, which is really helpful. We probably need to poll folks a little bit more about meat. So I know we have a good resource in Justin and what's going on with this processing facility, which is very interesting because the squeeze on the existing abattoirs and packing places is not going to lessen. It's getting a little bit more intense. So finding some other options, I think, would be really interesting to people producing and marketing meats. Couple more minutes. Anyone else?
To Jessica's point, I think that is a valuable deal, that if you go to a farm meeting, that's when a lot of guys will get up and go smoke or get a cup of coffee when it comes down to financing. But there is no software out there. And I think we all have experience with spreadsheets, but if you're looking for some funding, government funding, grant funding, or whatever, they require so much documentation. It would be great for us if there was somebody out there that has already written some software for for my interest, specialty crops, where you could plug in your numbers. You've got that in your head. Or if there was somebody interested in writing some software for a spreadsheet, it's to me, that would be the equal to that communications director I was talking to. It would make everyone's life. So simple, from what you're planning to what your sales are. When it comes down to time to reevaluate, like January the 1st, we always reevaluate our cattle operation, and I've got software for that, but I keep saying I'm going to spend that downtime to set up some spreadsheet that I can use year in, year out. There is no downtime. That goes to, I think it was Misty's point. There's some things you just have got to bite the bullet and farm out. And man, I'd spend a little money on some software if I could do that. So that's a great point, Jessica, that I would go to that workshop too. It's sometimes it's a little dry, but we all need that help.
You know, I have a group of spreadsheets from Iowa State that I use in planning. I could sure get that info to you. It really does break down those kind of numbers. Excellent spreadsheets. I would be happy to share those with the group.
That'd be an awesome resource.
Yeah, Mitzi, if you could make that available to Chelsea or to John, then we could get that distributed.
Okay, I will do that.
That would give me something to throw in Texas A&M's face. Maybe it'll get a little competition to write the best program.
Get this cooperative effort we're talking about. So good. All right. Well, this has been really helpful. I've got 3 pages of notes, so that means we talked about a lot of helpful ideas. So this is good, and we'll carry on with this. As I said, we won't be having a call in December, but we'll schedule one probably the second week of January, and just carry on from there. I think there are more people who want to start getting on these calls, and then we'll continue to reach out to those who've been on before, see if they'll get on again. But our hope is to, again, put together some summits that can happen in April or earlier in the South. And again, we might have to do some of these with some virtual presentations as well. But I think we're onto something that will be helpful to people, to our local growers and our local food sheds. So that's what we're going to work on. Thank you all for participating all these times and being part of the discussion, the conversation. And Liza, just to let you know that John and I and some others, we're going to meet Dan. We're leaving La Junta right now. We're going to go meet with Dan Hobbs, his farm, and see if he'll show us some of those seeds that he has in those 5-gallon buckets. No.
Yeah, I wondered about those. I wonder if they can breathe. You need to ask them if they can breathe in that plastic bucket.
I wondered. But hopefully
Well, have fun.
Yeah, hopefully we get to see the food hub at Excelsior.
That'd be great.
So,
well, good luck. Have a good time. It was great seeing everybody's face.
Yeah, good to see all of
too.
you, and happy holidays and in your whatever we're able to do, and let's enjoy the harvest, and we'll talk to everybody down the road.
Bye,
Take care.
See you guys.
Bye.
I take care, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Mitzi. Bye-bye. I think I messed up the Zoom call.